Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar focusing on turning problems into a success. So we'll be covering everything you need to know about how to utilize the Prospect CRM problems. So after this webinar, you should be confident on how to start managing customer issues on our problems feature. And we'll also have a Q&A session near the end of the webinar. So if you do have any questions, just post them on in, and then we'll go through as many as we can during that Q&A part. So first of all, what types of after-sales queries could you be using problems for? So all the typical types of after-sales queries listed there are usual ones for B2B businesses who sell from stock. So it's important to be able to record these within your CRM to ensure that they are dealt with and ultimately resolved. So the first one we have there is delivery issues. So these would be things like goods turning up damaged, that could be goods arriving late, or the goods have been lost during delivery. And all those kind of common issues which you get when you're sending actual goods to the customer. And obviously, as we know, usually delivery issues are always a pain point for most people in the kind of B2B business who sell from stock world. So being able to manage those using our problems feature is very beneficial. Also, technical issues. So if you're a business that does sell some electrical goods that maybe end up breaking or need to come back for fixing, or they even maybe have warranty dates, then problems could really help you capture all of that information about any technical issues that need to be recorded. So you may also want to log accounting issues. So that could be things like payment queries on invoices, or maybe even chasing late payers. So again, you don't just have to be using it for the kind of customer facing side of things. Your accounts department could also be using our problems feature. And then finally, sometimes you may use our problem feature to help plan and implement deployments of those equipment items that maybe need implementation. Or if you work on bigger projects, then again, you might want to use our problems feature to track how that problem is kind of being initiated. So how's that project being initiated through that feature? So you don't just have to use problems for issues in the kind of rarities, you could use it for planning and implementation too. So why we track after sales queries? So there's lots of benefits as to why we track our after sales queries. So firstly, by logging the customer issues, your CRM users kind of get a better picture as to what is happening. So when they're looking at the customer record, they'll be able to see both sales information, but also any issues that they've been having as well. So that could be particularly helpful for your account managers who are maybe keeping that relationship going. It also helps to enhance your customer service. As your staff, they'll be able to keep a finger on the pulse with what customer issues are actually open and make sure that these are resolved by closing the problem once it has been sorted. So you can use our pipeline feature to keep track where you're at with that particular issue. Also, a lot of businesses that I've definitely worked with in the past, because I work within onboarding, helping everybody get these things set up, is that quite a lot of you are using Excel spreadsheets to manage these customer complaints. And do you know what? That works, I'm sure, for quite a lot of businesses, but that is usually where things can kind of fall short. So our CRM, instead, by using the problems feature, that can really help improve the efficiency for your customer facing teams by having that all in one place, rather than lots and lots of different Excel spreadsheets. So also by using problems, and in particular, the task feature that you can get on the problems, that will help your customer facing teams, again, be more efficient and take responsibility to get those issues resolved. So we'll go through how the task feature works on the problems later on. And then finally, you can also improve your product service and also the kind of the support management side of those products as well, because you'll be able to track what the product issue was and whether that was covered by warranty or if it's not. You can also have the problems feature integrated to your inventory management system, so you could record the cost of that repair. You could also order more parts as well, so then the stock is all taken into account for within your inventory system. So it does have that integration at the problem level as well. So let's take a look at our problems in action. So we recommend logging a problem against a contact that is reporting the issue, but you can also log problems under the company as well. So here we have Michelle Jury, and let's just say that she's called in stating that some of her goods have arrived damaged during delivery. So we need to log a problem. So to log a problem, you just click the plus button in the top right-hand corner of the contact and choose to create a problem from the options. So we can then start adding the details about the problem at hand. So firstly, we need to give a description. So what this should do is describe the issue that the customer has. So for example, this might be damaged goods during delivery. So I know clearly from that description what that is about. So when it comes to looking at the reports and I see that description, everybody then knows what that issue involves. We then have the source. So this should be the channel from which the problem was reported through. So that's really helpful to understand where your problems are coming through from in case you need to kind of maybe focus more people on the telephones or make sure you've got a good system for dealing with those emails that are coming through. So it's just a good way to monitor how those problems are coming through. So I might say that this particular issue has come through via email. And then we have our types. So the problem type, this helps us to classify what type of problem it is. And where it's extremely useful is for your reporting, because when you're running a report, it's quite difficult to run that on a free text field like a description. But when you've got a drop down like this means that you could go and filter a report by one of those options. So then you can start to identify where your challenges are occurring within your business very, very easily. So for this particular type of problem, obviously it's goods damaged during delivery. So it is going to be a type of delivery that we're going to select. The next thing we have here is our pipelines. So the pipelines is meant to represent the steps within your workflow to getting this resolved. So basically you could use your pipeline to say where you're at within the workflow. So here I've got a delivery pipeline and I can see that I've got a status of new issue, working on, waiting, and then closed. So these pipelines, you can have multiple different ones as well. So if you've got different types of problems that have different workflows to getting that resolved, then you could set those up. So we'll use this delivery pipeline, giving it a delivery type of issue. So if we click create, that's going to go through and add our problem to the CRM. So if you were to now go on to Browns of Ipswich within our testing company here, you would see that they have got an open problem at the moment for damaged goods during delivery. So now that we've logged the problem, we can fill in some extra details here to help manage the issue. So firstly, we can add in a customer reference and also a supplier reference if we needed to. So just to note about the customer reference side of things, each of our problems do get a unique ID number. So the unique ID number for this problem is 1014. So if you were to give the customer that as their customer reference for their issue, that could be a really useful unique ID to give them. And if you were to search by that unique ID number in the global search, that would then find it in the system for you. So if they did phone up asking for an update, you could quickly search for it using that ID. We also have a summary. So this is where you could give a bit more detail about the issue, such as maybe what was damaged, so what product was damaged, how it was damaged, all of that additional info to get a really good overview of this problem. So if somebody else was to come on here that hasn't actually taken the phone call from this customer or hasn't seen the email just yet, then from that summary, they can get a very good idea as to what this issue is. Then just over on the right, we have our status drop down. So we're currently in the first status at the moment, which is new issue. But let's say now we're actually working on getting this resolved. So I could update the status and then it updates along the top for us. And sometimes you might even have a status detail. So I can say here whether it's been referred to the supplier, if it's gone back to them, or maybe we're working on that with us. And it's even going to prompt me to set a task as well to make sure I've got that on my to-do list. But we're going to come back to that in a moment. So just below our status, we then have our priority. So the priority on a problem is useful to know if it's a business critical issue or whether it's less critical. So 1 would be business critical, and then 10 would be less critical. And that's particularly useful if you are working off a pool of problems. So if you've got a customer services team that need to be kind of checking all the open problems every day, they could order that in priority. So they're dealing with the business critical tickets first. So that might be a system that you have in place. So by all means, you could use that priority to help manage that. So we then have our activity, which is just along the bottom here. And the activity is where you can add all of your notes as the problem progresses. So in here, we could simply just type in a note. So for example, took a call from Michelle and provided an update on the issue. So once I've typed in the notes, I can then click post in the bottom right-hand corner, and that will then add the note to the activity. So if somebody else, again, was to come on here, they would see that update on here along with those status changes that we have done so far. So that's how you can just add a note to the activity, but you'll also notice there's an option to assign a task as well. So if you need to maybe follow up with that, or maybe you need to send this off to another colleague to make sure they follow up with it, you can do that using the task feature. So you can either click on the assign task button from the activity, or there is a shortcut over on the right-hand side, which is this follow up date button. So if you click either of those, it'll take you through to the same window that we're looking at right now. So there's 3 important things when we're setting a task on a problem. First of all is who needs to be doing this. So is it going to be us, our prospect support user, or actually do I want to send it to my colleague Louise? So you can just choose a user from the list. If you do send it to a colleague, by the way, it does notify them via email. So don't worry about not knowing if somebody's sending you a task, because you will get notified via email about that task that you've been assigned. And then the second important bit is choosing a date. So when do we need to do this task? Do we need to give Michelle a call today, or actually is it in a couple of days' time because she's on holiday? So you just choose the date as to when that task needs to be done. And then finally, we can add a note here to say what we need to do for this particular task. So in here, I might write, need to give Michelle a call to rearrange delivery of new products. So once you've typed out your note, you just click save over on the right-hand side. And what that then does is goes and assigns that task to whoever you have selected. And again, it updates the activity, so you get a full timeline of what's going on. So definitely make sure you are using that task feature to help resolve these problems and make sure that they get closed off. So over on the right-hand side, you may have noticed that there is an email address. So that means you can actually send an email straight from the problem. So if you click into that email address, it'll take you through to our send email window. So you can send that straight from the system. And there's 2 real benefits of doing it this way. So 1, any emails you send from the CRM will be automatically saved. So they'll appear in the activity. And 2, you could even go a step further with setting up some templates. So if you've got particular communications that you need to do most of the time when you're dealing with customer issues, you can have that set up as a template. So it's just speeding up the process of then communicating with your customers about this issue. So definitely have a look. And we do have a webinar that's already been and gone on some of our document templates that you can set up. So definitely have a look through that within the webinar series. So whilst we're talking about emails, if you do receive incoming emails from customers, because it might be that they've emailed you directly and it's gone through to your Outlook or Gmail, you can use our Save to CRM add-in to get those emails saved in. So that add-in is available for Outlook Desktop, Outlook Web, and also Gmail as well. And in the follow-up, we'll try and get those guides in the follow-up so you can make sure you've got those installed. Because what's really important is to make sure you're saving all of those emails, even if they're incoming from the customer. So then they're all showing within the activity for us to see. So they also get shown in the documents page down the left-hand side as well, if you have saved in any emails. This will give you a list of all the documents saved against this problem. And you'll notice within the documents page, we do have a drag and drop section. So this actually allows you to drag and drop files. So that could be images of the issue maybe, or any other kind of files that may be relevant to the customer issue. So if you drag and drop, that will save a copy. And again, those files will show within the activity in a little preview. So you can see a full timeline of what's been going on. And then finally, over on the right-hand side, we have the plus button on the problem. And you'll notice when you click that, you can actually go into creating a sales order. So if you did need to charge maybe for the repairs, because maybe it's not covered under warranty, then you could create a sales order to charge for those repairs. So that goes through to your inventory management system. Or maybe you need to use some stock to fix or replace the product. And it would be zero value if it's covered by your warranty or your service level agreement. But you could, again, put that item through so it then gets deducted off the stock properly from your inventory management system. So do remember, you can do sales orders from the problem as well. So that is how you can log and manage your customer problems. So we're just going to head back into our slides and learn a bit more about what we can do with the problems feature. So now that we've logged a problem, we can then use our standard reporting to then help manage what's going on with these problems. Because it's all good and well kind of logging those for individual customers, but what we really need to be doing is then actually looking at the reports to learn what we can from our customer issues. So you could run reports to show you things like how many problems have been logged in a specific period of time to see if there's a seasonality to their customer issues. So it might be that, you know, you have during summer quite a lot of issues being reported, whereas during winter it drops off. So it's quite good to know if you do have specific periods of time over the year where you do get more issues logged. You could also look at reviewing your close problems. So if you have managed to close a load of problems this month compared to last month, so you can monitor how many you're closing each month. And you could also review your unresolved problems and how long they've been open for, because it might be that you've got some standard service level agreements to say that you will resolve things within a week. So it would be important to monitor to see if you're reaching that KPI. So those are just some of the examples of the type of reporting you could be completing with the problems in the CRM. You can also review how well specific users are doing with the problems. So they have responsibility over a problem. So when you're assigning a problem to a user, they get put down as the responsible person for that problem. So when you're running reports, you can see how well a particular user is doing with all of the problems in the CRM. So you can look at user-specific information as well. And then finally, you can also use our reporting to help identify any common problems that keep occurring amongst your customer base. So that can obviously help you put plans in place to reduce the number of problems that are being logged in the future by learning from what's happening at the moment. So let's have a look at some of the standard reports that are available within the CRM. So over on the left-hand side menu, if you expand this out, you'll see there is a service section, and within here we have a reports folder. So if you click into that report section, this will give you a list of the standard reports that come with the CRM that are all based on your problems within the system. So let's start with having a look at our open problems report. So what this does is this gives us a list of all of the open problems in the CRM. So this is a really good chance to keep an eye on what things still need to be resolved. So you can make sure that this number is going down, because ultimately you want to be closing off problems as quick as possible. This particular information is also available on our dashboards as well. So you can see very quickly and easily from the dashboards what open problems you've got. We also have a new problems report. So the new problems report, what this does is it shows us any problems that have been logged in the last 7 days. So I can see that problem that we have just logged for the damaged goods during delivery. And then the filter is over on the right-hand side. So if actually I wanted to look at slightly longer time, I could change that to maybe being 14 days, and that will show me for the last 2 weeks how many we've had logged within the system. So you can change these filters on the reports if you needed to. We also have in here our open problems by status. So what this does is it's showing you all of the open problems within the CRM. and then having them grouped by the status that they are in. So we have got 8 problems in the new issue status and 3 in working on. So what we really want to be doing is getting those customers' issues out of this stage of new issue and getting them moved on to the working on stage. And if you expand out each of these groups, you'll then be able to see what problems are in that particular status. So it's just a good way to compare data within one report. And then finally, we've also got the problems open for too long. So if we just click into our report here, what this will do is show us any problems that are open more than 7 days. So basically all these problems, they have been open for more than 7 days. So therefore we really need to be working on these to get these resolved, so they're not still open and still an issue for your customers. So again, if you have a standard service level agreement with your customers that says you will sort things out within 7 days, this is a great report to keep an eye on to see which ones are exceeding those SLA agreements. You can again change the filters. So if yours isn't 7 days, but actually maybe a month, I can change that to being 30 days instead. And that will then show me the problems that are actually open for longer than 30 days. So that's reduced down by 1 to show us 9 different problems that are still exceeding our standard level agreement. So a good place to kind of just keep an eye on. So those are just some of the reports that we have available. Ultimately, if you want to build your own report, you can do so. So you'll see here we have a new report button. So if you click that, you'll be able to go through to our report builder and be able to do your own. And you also can edit these reports that are there as well and then save your changes. So don't feel like these are the only ones that you can use, because ultimately you can build your own and also amend those ones that are there as well. Okay, so that was everything I wanted to show you today with our problems feature. So do we have any questions? So let's just have a look. So we've got a question from one of our customers here. So some labels in prospect are editable and some are not. It looks like problems is not editable at present. So we find the term problems very negative, and it would be helpful if there was an option to rebrand problems as, for example, issues. So you're right, yes. So problems, that is a key entity for us. So we don't allow that to be changed, just because that could cause us a bit of support overhead if people are changing the core entity names, because that could be quite challenging for the support team to keep up to date with. So we only allow you to change the names of the fields within the system, but not actually the core entity names. What you can do though, if you think that that would be quite useful for internally in your business, by all means log that on our ideas portal, and we'll see if there are any other customers that would also love that. And then you can vote on each other's ideas. And then based on that, if that's something that all of our customers are wanting to do, we can look at having that possibly as an option. So just had another question here. So just wondering how you can add or edit categories when setting up a problem. Yeah, so that's something we're actually going to cover off in the next webinar session, because we're going to be looking at setting up your problems. But just a little bit of a sneak preview for you guys. If I just go back to the problem, you'll see at the bottom of each of these drop downs, there is a configure button. So anybody that has admin rights, they will be able to make changes to these drop downs. So when you click configure, that will take you through to our problem types, and I can come in here and make changes if I wanted to. So that's something we'll be covering off in the next webinar for setting up problems. So have a look out for that. Hopefully you can attend live. If you can't, watch that back afterwards. Okay, let's just have a look to see if we've got any more questions. Brilliant. Okay, well, if you do have any further questions, as I always show on our webinars, we do have a question mark in the top right-hand corner of our CRM, which gives you access to all of our online resources. So in here, we have our Prospect Academy. And in the onboarding section of the Academy, right at the end, there is actually a whole section on turning problems into a success. So all the things you can do to set up your problems. If you want to make a head start on that before the webinar next week, have a look there. Also, we have an online chat. So if you do have any questions at all that you can't find on our Academy or in our documentation, just pop us a chat and I'll go straight through to our customer success team. And then our product suggestions as well, just to highlight that, because we obviously had an idea there about being able to change the name of problems. So that's where you can log that idea if it's not already logged. So, as I mentioned, in terms of our next webinar, we're going to be looking at setting up your problems. So make sure you can attend that if you have attended today, because that will then give you everything you need to properly set up the problems feature for your business and customize all of those options, like the problem types, like the problem pipelines, so that matches your business's processes. So make sure to attend that or watch back the recording if you can't attend live. Thank you, everybody, for those that attended live, and thank you to those that have watched back. And obviously, let us know if you've got any questions. Thank you.